your dreams.
Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another Genshin Impact video, and today we're going to be talking about Arlecchino. That's it. If you like the video, just leave a like and subscribe. By the way, if I'm wrong about anything, let me know in the comments, because Arlecchino has received a lot of changes in the beta, and it's really hard to keep up with them. And I do have a life, so keeping up with them is going to be pretty difficult, so let me know in the comments. Arlecchino is an upcoming Pyro DPS character that uses a polearm and scythe, so she will be competing with other 5-star DPS characters that are also Pyro. So her best comparison is going to be Hu Tao, since Hu Tao is also another polearm user that has a risky play style. I do think Arlecchino will be pretty complex to play, as her mechanics are not just simply, you hit EQ, normal attack, whatever. The average Genshin player will most likely not be able to master her very easily. The core of her kit is basically whenever she uses her elemental skill, she marks the enemies with this thing called the blood debt whatever, and when Arlecchino charge attacks, she collects their debt, which is called the bond of life or whatever, and that bond of life converts her normal attacks to pyro and increases her normal attack damage. Arlecchino also has an edgy passive that basically prevents herself from getting heals unless they come from her burst. So her synergy with Furina is looking abysmal, since Arlecchino's main source of healing comes from Pale Moon Rising, her burst. So Arlecchino will have a hard time getting fanfare stacks. Arlecchino will also unsynergize with Jean and Zhongyun, since her passive only lets her to heal from her burst. So the fact that Arlecchino can only heal from her burst means you do have to use her burst pretty wisely, otherwise it could be a fatal mistake. Players will either have to learn to dodge or just use a shielder, but shielders are considered DPS loss since all they do is shielding. Arlecchino's best team on paper is going to be Kazuha, Yelan, Bennett, which is a pretty high cost team since you have 2 5-stars. Arlecchino's burst does scale off of attack, so Bennett will be pretty helpful here, not to mention with the not mono pyro, but with the pyro resonance, attack will be increased even further, giving Arlecchino even more damage. However, if you are a meta troll, your Bennett is most likely already being used in another team, so you're gonna have to decide if you want your Bennett on that current team or with Arlecchino. Same deal with the other 2 5-stars, Kazuha and Yelan. Kazuha being the best elemental buffer, and Yelan providing your character with more damage and also providing hydro off field to have Arlecchino do some vapes. Pretty solid Arlecchino team. And your second team, if you're a meta troll, will most likely be some Dendro team, whether it's Hyper Bloom, Burgian even, or maybe Nilu Bloom. If you want to use a low cost team instead, you can replace Kazuha with Sucrose and Yelan with Xingqiu. Personally myself, I think I'm gonna run double Hydro Arlecchino with Xingqiu and Yelan, and Bennett being the last slot. Since I mentioned Vape being Arlecchino's best team, obviously Hu Tao will be compared with her. When it comes to DPS characters, they're honestly really not that important. If you really care about your account strength, you should be pulling for the support characters, because the supports basically carry the DPS character, right? Most teams are either going to have Kazuha, Bennett, Yelan, Furina, any other support character. So when it comes to choosing the DPS, it's really just going to depend on your playstyle preference. As I stated earlier, I do think Arlecchino will be pretty complex to play, as you got to charge attack in order to collect the debts. I also forgot to mention that her burst can also collect debts, so you're going to have to time her burst pretty correctly, because her burst is her only source of healing. She cannot get heals from anywhere else. I don't know how that will affect in the overworld. I don't know if she'll be able to receive heals from the statues of the archons. I would kind of hope so, because if she ends up with like 1 HP, then you're basically just kind of fucked. Anyways, regardless of Arlecchino being complex to play, you can obviously learn it and master it pretty easily if you put your mind to it. Now Hu Tao on the hand is pretty simple to play. You hit E, you charge attack. If you ever see 0, you can charge attack cancel. You don't have to, but meta trolls typically say that you kind of have to do it if you want more damage, but it's not like you have to do it. You can just use E and this normal attack just fine. If you have Hu Tao at C1, she's basically even more brain dead, since you can basically spam her charge attacks in the span of her elemental skill infusion. But compared to Arlecchino, I do think Hu Tao will just be pretty basic to play, right? She's really not that hard to play around. Hu Tao can at least work with Furina, and she can also receive heals from Jean or Zhongyun So at least Hu Tao has that going for her. I don't know how good Hu Tao is with Furina since I never really tried the team, but she can at least work with her. Now, as for other Pyro DPS characters we can compare Arlecchino with, we got Yoimiya, who's also very brain dead to play. With Yoimiya, you basically hit E, left click. That's basically all you do. Yoimiya's burst isn't really that useful. I hardly ever use that shit. At least Hu Tao's burst can heal Hu Tao. Arlecchino's burst is also pretty important in her kit. Yoimiya's burst is really not that important. You just hit E, left click. Yoimiya has a pretty simply comfy DPS. You don't have to worry about your health going low, especially if you're using Yoimiya with a shielder. I think Yoimiya is probably the most comfiest Pyro DPS character. Her best team also happens to be a Vape team as well. We got Linny, who is Arlecchino's son. Linny is also a bow user. However, he is glued to mono Pyro since his passive basically like boosts Pyro damage if you have like 2 other Pyro characters in the team. I don't know what his sub capabilities could be like, so he could technically be paired with Arlecchino, maybe, since Arlecchino is a Pyro DPS character, but I don't know how good his sub DPS capabilities is. I really don't know. Let me know in the comments. Can he be a sub DPS? I have no fucking idea. I don't use the boy. Anyways, Linny is mono glued to Pyro. He's glued to mono Pyro, and he can also charge attack every now and then, so his playstyle is a little bit more similar to Ganyu's, but in just mono Pyro. Klee is just there. She's very clunky to play, but she's at least cute and funny. Compared to these other Pyro DPS characters, I do think Arlecchino will be a pretty solid DPS. I do think she'll take time to master, but I don't think her gameplay is that complex, but it is definitely different, and I like that. Arlecchino also has really good constellations, and I know some low spenders might not like that, but she definitely has very good fucking constellations. Definitely a character worth vertically investing compared to other Pyro DPS characters. Arlecchino's constellations basically just increase her fucking damage, and it's really amazing. Like, for some reason, Hu Tao, I think at C4 increases like the crit rate of her allies for some reason. Yoimiya at C4 decreases the cooldown of her burst, which is pretty useless because Yoimiya's burst is useless. Linny has a decent constellations too. I guess all Fontaine characters are gonna have really good vertical investment, and Klee, she's just cute and funny. She has sub DPS capabilities at C4 since you can switch her out during her burst, but I mean yeah, that's it. Players may not even know the full extent of Father Arlecchino's power since she does have a dedicated set for her in 4.6. That is another thing that you would have to consider before you pull for Arlecchino. She does have her own dedicated set. The 2-piece increases attack by 18%, and the 4-piece is when the value of a bond of life increases or decreases, this character deals 18% increased damage for 6 seconds. I don't think any other character in the game has like their own set like this. The 4-piece explicitly states the bond of life, and Arlecchino is the only character that has a bond of life. I don't know, maybe in the future there will be characters that have a bond of life mechanic, and Arlecchino will be the predecessor. You can try to pre-farm Arlecchino with like a 2-piece Crimson Witch and a 2-piece any attack, but I don't think those will unlock her full potential. 4.6 will also introduce a new world boss for Arlecchino, so her talents will be stuck at 666 for a while, so her true strength will not be revealed for the community for quite some time. In conclusion, if you're still on the fence, you either should pull or not. You might have to wait a while for people to test her out. You probably won't have to wait that long because of HoYoverse's new content creator leaked gameplay program that they got with Star Rail. It might come to Genshin with Arlecchino, I don't know. Arlecchino is a DPS character, so if you do have like very good supports, she's definitely considered worth pulling. I do think that she will break some records in sales since she is a pretty popular character, and she does have a pretty solid kit, especially vertically. So that's gonna be my final thoughts. Let me know what you guys think about Arlecchino. You pulling? You concerned? You worried? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys later.
Bye bye now. Come again soon.